When you were struggling and on the bottom, nobody cared. But all of a sudden, when you start to really work on yourself, and you start to really pay attention to your actions, you take responsibility for your decisions, and you are accountable for yourself, and you own who you are or who you were, because you understand that what you choose to be is always going to be more important than what you were in the past. This is where you have to realize that if you are a calm, humble person that speaks with the authority that God has given unto them, oh boy, you're going to piss them off. Someone's pissed off that you're calm, cool, collected, humble, and speaking with spiritual authority that God has given you. You see, we don't get our authority from any other place apart from God himself. And I have a couple of scriptures that I want to go into. This is Luke chapter 10, verse 19. It says, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing by any means shall hurt you." And then we have another Bible verse. This is Romans chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. "Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained by God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive themselves damnation." So basically, if you have the authority of God within you, and God has given you this authority, and people are not adhering to your authority, then they're going to be going to hell. Now, you've got to be very careful with this, because this is not necessarily a reason for you to be inappropriate in arrogance, okay? But it's also not to say that you should not have confidence in who you are and what you're doing and what you're about. If you know who you are and you have a connection to the Most High God, nothing will ever shake you off your square, okay? It's just a simple matter of the facts. So if you are really speaking with the calm, humble authority that God has given unto you, and you are speaking truth into being, and you are bringing life to your environment, maybe there's just part of you that is just living a life of desperation. One time in your life, you were living a life of desperation, but now you've taken that desperation, you've taken all this pain, you've taken all this suffering, and you've been able to transmute it into something beautiful. Now, this is only glory to God, because God transforms beauty into something beautiful. God transforms pain into something beautiful. And God transforms the suffering that you might be going through into something beautiful. That is, if you do the work to accept it. But this also means that you're going to piss people off if you're speaking the truth into being, and you know it's the truth. Like, you don't need to believe anymore. You have complete, absolute faith, because there is a difference between faith and belief. Okay, belief, I can believe that the sky is purple. I can believe that the grass isn't green. I can believe whatever I want. You can believe whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that it's true. Just because you believe something doesn't mean it's actually true. But if you have faith, well, what that means is you're putting your trust into that which is unforeseen. You're putting your trust into that which the classic example is starting the car in the morning, okay? If you're going to work or the gym or whatever, the grocery store, you know that you have to move by faith by starting the car, or even just taking a step. You know, what's to say that if you take the next step that you have, you're not going to fall through the floor? I mean, this is going to be an act of faith, is to move through the world in of itself. So, and vice versa. To move through the world is an act of faith. So that's something that you have to make sure that you're differentiating. But it is the case also that these people, let's say you're talking to either family or friends or new people in your life, and you're certain on something and you speak, especially as a man, you ought to speak as if what you are saying is factual. And I'm not necessarily saying that you should delude yourself, but you should have, in my recommendation, of course, you don't have to take this, but in my recommendation, it's if you can speak as if what you are saying is true because you have seen it. These are things that you've seen with your own two eyes. You've sweat your own sweat. You've bled your own blood. You have complete experience and you trust in your experience, because ultimately that's going to be what's most important and most valuable. If you don't know how to trust in your own experience, good luck moving through the world with faith, man. Good luck. It's not going to happen, not the way that you like. And you can do a particular thing all day long, but if you don't have the mindset and the internals correct, if you're not consuming the right things or letting go of the right things, you're just not going to make it to where you want to be. I mean, you got to know who you are and where you're going and what you're trying to become and what you're trying to do. And this is something that a lot of people don't necessarily want to acknowledge. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that they have to answer to the laws of God and the laws of nature. And people don't want to believe that. People don't want to have faith in that either. And as somebody that has been going down the path of wrath and gluttony and lust and all these other kinds of deadly sins in my lifetime before, I kind of say that it's my prior life in some sense. In some ways, I feel as though I've lived 3 lives in this one body. There's my first life that I had up until I was 22. And when I was 22, I had a spiritual awakening and everything started to change for the drastic measures of awareness, really impinged upon my psyche as a whole. Well, then what happened? Well, when I was 22 to 25, that's my second life. This was where I feel as though I was moving in the world in a way that was better than before, but still not quite right. Something was still missing. It was like I knew my destination, but I didn't know how to get there. And then from 25 onward to now is my third life. And this is where I began to follow Christ. And in my other lives, per se, just to think about it like this, or phases of life, I was a bit haughty, and I was a bit stubborn and hard-headed, and I was kind of lazy and undisciplined. In fact, I was really lazy at one point and undisciplined. And there was so many things in life that I had to answer to, and I hated it. I really did. Oh my gosh, I did not like to have to answer to anything outside of myself. And then I realized that if I had to just answer to myself, I would be making myself my own God. And my ego really liked that. Oh man, my ego was thrilled about that, because that means that the only person that I could answer to was me. And if I lied to myself, well, then I could do anything, right? But that's not what you're supposed to be doing if you actually really want to get anywhere in life. If you really want to help people and serve people, you have to begin somewhere. And for me, it was to stop lying to myself. And to have, instead of lying to myself, to have pathological confidence in everything I do and everything I'm about. Because if I'm proficient in something, and I know I'm proficient in something, I need not let anyone dictate how I ought to see the world through that lens. And so that's how I began to live my life. And it was only until I felt like I had mastered something is when I could say, okay, I know what to do now. I know how to do things now. I know how I'm to live my life. And nobody's going to be able to tell me different except for God himself. And being able to answer to God is a different kind of authority, because when you are a servant to God, you are almost an extension of God's will. I mean, you have to be. If you're a vessel for if you are a servant of God and a vessel for His will, you are almost by definition a extension of His will. And so when you're in the presence of people that are maybe not particularly fond of God, or don't know how to see that light in themselves, because holy cow, today I started to get stalked by a lot of random people, a lot of monitoring spirits, and I was able to, move as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, but at the same time, I was very cautious of what was happening and what was being said and the choice of words, etc. And I could see in the people's eyes there was this darkness. And when I said certain things, it's not just today. I mean, today is just kind of what inspired me to do this video. But, this happens very frequently, just not to the extent that it did today. And so I would have said, I did say certain things, and, they were very taken aback by the authority that I had when I said it. They were very confused. Because they felt as if they knew that exactly what I was saying was true, but they didn't know why I was saying it in such a clear, well-spoken, and direct and bold way, where I just acted as if it were true. Well, how can I do that? Well, because I live it. I don't just say what I think is true. I live what's true. And that's the key difference that a lot of these people don't understand when it comes to prioritizing certain things in life. When it comes to prioritizing your life in accordance to that which is good, true, merciful, and just, there are going to be a lot of different kinds of people in the world that don't understand you. And they're going to try to shake you off your square. I mean, that's just as simple as it gets. They're going to try to shake you off. They're going to try to make it seem like you don't know who you are, you don't know what you're talking about, and yet they're going to have to be the ones to answer to God, okay? Because you're not going to force them to do anything. Like, they're the ones that came to you, right? They're the ones that come to you to ask questions and to see what's going on and seeking your counsel, and that's fine, that's dandy. And say what you need to say what you have to say, and say what is true, and live it as if it were, because that's the most important part. You might know truth, but if you don't live it, that's another thing entirely, okay? And this is where a lot of people go astray, is because they intellectually understand the truth, but they don't know how to live it. They don't know how to integrate it, and they don't know how to live a prosperous life. And it's not just prosperous materialistically. It's a richness of the inner being that you have. It's the fragrance of God's presence, really. I mean, you almost can smell when somebody's a demon or a witch or someone that's a godly person. And I don't mean that literally. I mean that metaphorically, because when you're with these kinds of people that actually have God's presence, you feel lighter. You feel just naturally very free. And you don't really understand why all the time. I mean, I've had people tell me this. This is just what people have said. They've told me that they felt so free around me, but they don't know why. And it's like they just feel as though they can be themselves and they're not going to be judged. It's like, well, yeah, I'm not the judge. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm not judging. Like, I'm not here to judge, but yeah, I'm going to make some judgments. And it's not necessarily out of malice or cruelty. It's just that I need to discern spirits. And sometimes that means making certain judgments on how people behave. And so I'm going to have to make certain judgments, and I'm going to have to make certain discernments based off of what you're behaving and who you're behaving like. It's really just that simple. So these people, though, that don't necessarily want to see you make those decisions and those reasonable judgments, they're going to be the ones that turn on you. They're going to be the ones that they see what's happening. They see that you have this light about you and you're speaking with a little bit too much confidence. That is jealousy. That is envy. And it's not because you have more, like you might have less materials. This is often something that happens to me. As you guys can see in my videos, I live in a humble 1-bedroom apartment. Okay, it's nothing special as far as the grandeur. Okay, and it's great for me though. I don't need anything else extra at this point. I don't need that. I have everything that I need, and God has given me everything. So glory to him, because I don't necessarily need this other kind of worldly materials to make myself feel like, oh, I'm a king now, or I don't need that brand new car to tell me that I'm worth something, because I know that God's chosen me. And I don't know why exactly. Like, I have a good idea of my purpose, and I'm living my purpose, and I know what God wants me to do in the moment, but to be quite frank, I still don't know exactly what God is wanting me to do in the long term. And I know that I've already made an impact on many people's lives, for better or for worse. I've very much pissed some people off, but I'm not trying to do it because I'm wanting to offend people. It is simply the case that some of the stories that I have and some of the opinions that I hold are going to resonate with other people and not with others. And some people are going to get very upset about it, and some people are going to love me for it. I get a lot of love and a lot of hate wherever I go, and that's just that. But you've got to be mindful, you've got to stay curious, and you've got to stay humble as well if you're going to have this authority that God gives unto you. Because remember, we don't really have any other kind of spiritual authority. Like, the devil can give you authority, but it's no match for God's authority. And this is something you either have faith in or you don't. And if you don't, well, then we'll see how your life turns out. And we'll see how happy you are. And I'm not necessarily saying that happiness is the goal, because it's a byproduct of fulfillment, but we'll see how happy and fulfilled you are down the line. All right? So with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful for you. If you do want to join a godly community where we are building minds, bodies, and souls each and every day, join the Regal Change Academy. We have the links in the description box below. We have the free Discord channel as well as the paid community. The paid community, we just started the Legends of Stoicism class today. So I'm super stoked for that. That'll be for the next 2 months. We'll be doing a class every Saturday for that. It'll be a hands-on class. So everybody that's been enrolled now, they're going to be the ones that get in. If you still want to enroll in the academy itself, we have other classes available, such as the Entrepreneurial Minds, Nexus Attraction, AI Optimization, Godlike Savage Workshop, etc. These are all going to be classes that you can do on your own time and in your own way. We also have weekly Bible studies, weekly Regal Assembly calls, as well as a weekly Maps of the Psyche class. We also have in the free Discord an ebook that you can check out, meditation guides, fitness guides, etc. I do appreciate everybody that is a member for this channel, or that is also a subscriber and a follower. I do appreciate everybody moving from the YouTube platform over to X, Rumble, and Instagram recently as well. And peace be with you all. Until next time.